Welcome back. As the United States overhauls its Afghanistan strategy, my guest today says it must include a more effective counter-narcotics program if there is to be stability in the region. From Denver, I'm joined by Gretchen. She's covered Pakistan and Afghanistan for more than a decade as a journalist. She spent 5 years traveling the border areas between the two countries to research and write her new book, Seeds of Terror: How Heroin is Bankrolling the Taliban and Al-Qaeda. Let's get back to our discussion. Gretchen, we've talked a bit about the production of these drugs in a country like Afghanistan and how it's got out, but what about the money trail? And I looked here at something you said in your book, a quote from your book, in which you say 8 years after 9/11, the single greatest failure in the war on terror is not that Osama bin Laden continues to elude capture or that the Taliban has staged a comeback. It's the spectacular incapacity of Western law enforcement to disrupt the flow of money that is keeping their works afloat. Now, the United States made a big thing after 9/11 of introducing new legislation, of introducing new rules so that they could track the movement of funds around the world from one bank to the other. Have they not been able to do that in this case?
Well, I don't think the money that is tied to the drugs trade is going through banks. I think they've done a great job of tracking money that's moving through banks, but criminal money is moving in the Hawala network in the region. It's also appears to be being parked in real estate. Real estate transactions in the region are not regulated in any way. I traced it to various stock markets in the region where there's no or very little oversight as well. I think that, again, we need to take the focus off the farmlands and put it where the real money is. And as you mentioned in the intro, the Obama administration and NATO are trying to overhaul their strategy towards the region. I think we need to redefine the way we see the Taliban and Al-Qaeda and some of the other extremist groups that operate along the border. When I look at them, having studied them for so long, their ground operations and how the money moves, they really operate more like members of mafia families, say here in New York, the New York mob meeting with the New Jersey mob. The way they interact with each other, the way they sometimes fight with each other, and the way that really criminal enterprise is at the basis of everything they do. And it's not just drugs. There's human trafficking, gun running, gemstone smuggling, timber smuggling, kidnapping is a growth industry both in Pakistan and Afghanistan. And the people there are the victims of this. They call themselves holy warriors and mujahideen, but they're hardly behaving like pious Muslims, in my opinion.
Well, let's go to the phones. We have a caller here from Belgium. MAIWAND in Belgium. Go ahead with your question.
Yeah, hello, it's me. Hello.
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah, hello, it's me, MAIWAND from Belgium. I have a question that, as according to Madam, she said that, but before the region, but in the region of Taliban, the growth rate was not high, and most of the people were not growing this product. But now, when the Westerns enter to Afghanistan, you can easily see on the roads of Jalalabad, because I'm from that region, and the people are they have not stopped. They have given the permission for 2-3 years, but however now she's Madam saying that only it is in Helmand, but it's not only in Helmand. Most of it comes from the Jalalabad as well, which you can see only passing by the roads on the side of the road. You can easily watch that. So, but how it's like it's not, they are not controlling, and they are also using this industry for themselves.
Okay, let's put that to Gretchen. Gretchen?
Well, first of all, I'd like to acknowledge what he says in that I believe there are a lot of state actors, non-Taliban actors, who are also profiting greatly off of the opium trade. In the last year, actually, Nangarhar has eradicated most of its crop. As I understand it, they're expecting that it will produce little or no poppy, or cultivate little or no poppy this year. I'm not saying there won't be drugs smuggled through the province. But I don't believe it's true to say that there were no drugs grown while the Taliban was in power. I was working in the region at the time, and at that time, Afghanistan was producing record levels of crops. One of the things discussed in the book, in Seeds of Terror, in the history chapter about the Taliban, is the 1 year that they banned farmers from growing poppy. Many people have interpreted that to mean that the Taliban were anti-poppy, that they were trying to stamp out the narcotics trade. I actually, from my interpretation, they did this because, again, it was a time when there was so much poppy being grown that the price was bottoming out, and there's ample evidence that drug traffickers and many of the top officials in the Taliban, right around Mullah Omar, bought up huge stocks of opium, and then they banned it. They banned farmers from growing it, and what happened, of course, was the price went through the roof, and they all made millions. It was an insider trading deal, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, we have another caller, and this is Azam calling us from the United Kingdom. Azam, go ahead with your question.
Oh, good evening. My question to the young lady is that I think that she's not familiar with the history and the facts. I mean, what she's dictating the fact is that the people are dying in Pakistan because of the American and European attitude, and they're meddling in the Afghanistan and Pakistani affairs. This young lady must, I mean, firstly, she correctly the Pakistan corruption is going on. Before 9/11, there was no suicide bomber in Pakistan. There was no terrorist attack in Pakistan. Since 9/11, more people got killed in Pakistan, more soldiers died in Pakistani army. Pakistan almost inside in civil war because of the Western European attitude and Western European intelligence involvement.
Okay, Azam, thanks for your comment there. Let me give Gretchen a chance to respond to that.
Yeah, I agree with much of what he says. The reason that these extremist groups exist along the border are because the U.S. Working with Pakistan and Saudi Arabia and other countries helped to fund and train the Mujahideen to fight the Soviets when they invaded Afghanistan in 1979 throughout the 80s. Together, the United States and Pakistan created these groups. I don't deny that for a second. I also think that U.S. policy, the U.S. war on terror, has been a very immoral policy towards the region. I think that the predator strikes and these kind of things have fueled more people joining the insurgency. I personally put forward a proposal that our policy support development in these areas, the construction of schools, health clinics, creating jobs. I think a lot of young men are joining the insurgency because they don't have other options. I think there needs to be governance in these border areas, and having traveled in them, and I have a lot of friends in those areas, I think it's wrong when I hear people say that these are savage tribes that can never be governed. I think nobody's ever really tried. So I don't disagree for a second that Pakistan is facing unbelievable and unprecedented violence as a result of the way the war has been fought since 2001. I think there needs to be a dramatic change, and one that works with the people of Afghanistan and Pakistan to build better governance in both of those countries.
Gretchen, we just have about a couple of minutes left, but I want to look at one of the chapters you wrote in which you visited the home of a very powerful man called Haji Juma Khan, whom you referred to as the Pablo Escobar of Afghanistan. That was the reference to the notorious Colombian drug lord. We have a few minutes. If you could just tell us about that visit and what you found there.
Well, I had been trying to track down Haji Juma Khan for several years. I mean, he was the biggest, and I believe his network is still probably the biggest in the region. He actually was arrested in October of last year, and he's now in custody in New York. But he was widely believed to be the biggest trafficker, not only in Afghanistan, but also Pakistan and Iran. All considered him to be the largest, to run the largest smuggling group in the region, to move more than $1 billion worth of drugs every year. But he was virtually unknown among the people of Afghanistan and Pakistan, even among many government officials. He was a very shadowy character. I finally tracked down one of his residences, and I was told at that house that he had more than 200 homes around the region. He lived in a dusty back street of Quetta, and I knocked on the door, and the man who answered said, yes, this is his home, and please come inside and have a cup of tea. So I did. Unfortunately, he wasn't there, but I was able to speak to other people who said they worked for him, and that he was on the run from authorities. This was just a few months before he was caught. It was a very I think it's a fascinating study in how the drug trade works in that part of the world, to try and piece together the very family-run organization that he ran.
Okay, Gretchen, we're going to have to leave it there. Thanks for joining us. That was Gretchen Peters, and the book is
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. The book is called Seeds of Terror: How Heroin is Bankrolling the Taliban and Al-Qaeda. And thank you for being with us. On the next show, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas is scheduled to meet Barack Obama on Thursday. We take a look at what's expected from that. See you next time.